Knowledge is power when it comes to monster collection games. Going beyond the basics and understanding how something works is just as important as doing the work. That's why Legion Gaming started the Temtem Survival Guide series to help players break down essential topics and walk away ready for battle. My name is Kodiak, and in today's Survival Guide, we break down everything you need to know about types. Understanding all 12 types of Temtem, what their strengths and weaknesses are, if they are better offensively or defensively, and how they best pair together are all essential elements to building up that perfect team. That's why Legion Gaming took the time to create this comprehensive visual to help you along the way. We'll be referring to this throughout the video, so go ahead and click the link in the description below to download a high-res copy. The first thing you need to understand is how exactly this chart works. The 12 types of Temtem are listed on the left and are as follows. Neutral Temtem are extremely diverse and look like nothing else in the archipelago. While they can be found throughout the world, they are most prevalent in the eastern savannas of Kisiwa. Fire Temtem are powerful and unpredictable. The preferred habitat and place you can find the most concentration of them is in the lava-filled depths of the Anak volcano. Nature Temtem are quite diverse and can be found in a dense concentration in the lush Omninesian jungles. Water, potentially the most balanced of all Temtem types, can be found in and around the Solaro, the biggest body of water in the archipelago. Electric Temtem, once revered as spirits of lightning, can be found among the misty hilltops of Sapanku. Mental Temtem have incredible brain power and are often aloof and distant, but can be found around the Properton in high numbers. Earth Temtem are heavy, resistant creatures and are fairly unknown outside their natural habitat in the western Kisiwan deserts. Wind Temtem can be seen throughout the archipelago, but are often seen in great concentrations around the Thalassian cliffs of Deniz. Crystal Temtem have great strength and endurance and can be found in high concentrations in the mind of Quetzal. Digital Temtem are technological wonders and are said to be incredibly rare and are created in the high-tech labs of Notno. Melee Temtem are sleek, elegant battle machines prevalent around Lockberg, and of course Toxic Temtem thrive on chemicals that would otherwise kill other life, finding their homes in the desolate barrens of Tukma. Using this chart, you'll find that the left-hand side represents your side of the battlefield, and the Temtem you're using to attack enemy Temtem. The top row of the chart reflects the list of 12 types as if they were on the opposite side of the field and defending from your attacks. Moving from left to right, you can see points labeled 1x, 0.5x, and 2x. 1x means the Temtem attacking or defending will receive neutral hits and deal normal damage. 0.5 means the Temtem attacking or defending will receive ineffective hits and deal half damage. And 2x means the Temtem attacking or defending will be very effective and deal double damage. Temtem can also be dual types, such as water and wind, and that can be a huge factor when figuring out which attacks are effective and what attacks they're vulnerable to. An electric type attacking the water and wind Temtem we just described would deal double damage to both water and wind, meaning electric techniques would hit at 4 times the damage. If an earth type attacked this pair, it would deal half damage to both wind and water, meaning earth techniques would hit for only 1/4 the damage. This is all very important to consider when building a strong and versatile team or building a team for tackling a specific situation, such as a dojo. So let's really dive in, talk about each type and what situations you might use a specific Temtem in. If you have any questions along the way, you can always reach out to us on Discord. Our team is active 24/7 and is always willing to help out. Overall, neutral types are below average when it comes to filling a defensive role, even though they are naturally much tankier than other Temtem. This is because while they only have one weakness in mental, they have absolutely no resistances, meaning every technique will do normal damage to them. However, on the offensive side of things, neutral comes in slightly above average due to only being resisted by one type, mental, meaning neutral attacks are capable of always dealing damage to most enemies. Unfortunately, no moves in the neutral pool are super effective to any types. Fire Temtem occupy an interesting place on a team. In terms of defense, they're relatively strong, touting 3 resistances and only 2 weaknesses. This allows Fire Temtem to act in a much more defensive capacity in comparison to other types. On the offensive side of things, they fall a bit short and end up performing below average as a result. Fire Temtem are only effective against 2 other types, while also being resisted by 3 types. Water is one of the most balanced types in the game, both defensively and offensively. It's effective against 3 types, ineffective against 3 types, resistant to 3 types, and weak to 3 types. This means Water Temtem should fill a more specialized role on your team, called upon when needed for a specific situation. Nature is currently one of the best defensive types in the game. It has a wide range of resistances, covering 4 out of the 12 types, while only being weak to 2. Nature Temtem often come with strong support techniques and have the ability to soak up a wider range of attacks as compared to other types. However, offense is a different story. Nature Temtem are only effective against 2 types and are ineffective against 3 types, meaning that Nature Temtem often should play a tankier, more supportive role on your team. If we had to put a label on it, Electric Temtem definitely fall into the aggressive category. They're effective against 4 types, but also ineffective against 4 types as well. This gives players a powerful specialized tool that they can deploy in a glass cannon type scenario. Luckily, Electric Temtem are also rather defensive, resisting 2 types while also having only 2 weaknesses. Earth Temtem could most closely be compared to Water Temtem in terms of balance, but come in a little lower on the rankings, making Earth types a bit more situational. Earth Temtem have 4 weaknesses, which means 1/3 of all Temtem will be effective against the type. Earth types can make for effective, situational tanks, but only in the right circumstances. Earth types just aren't effective at remaining on the field for long due to the probability that the next swap will be a direct counter. Mental types may not have the best defense, but what they lack in resistances, they make up for in offensive capability. Mental Temtem are only ineffective against crystal types, and the only type effective against normal. Mental Temtem give players wide coverage in terms of effectiveness. On the defensive side of things, Mental Temtem are great, but players should be able to see a counter coming from a mile away. They'll just have to be on the lookout for one of the 3 more offensive types in the game: electric, crystal, or digital. If we were trying to find a Temtem type that was most similar to neutral, it would definitely be wind types. In terms of offensive effectiveness, they're fine, but don't stand out in most common situations. They are the only type effective against toxic, so keep that in mind, but everywhere else, they're average or ineffective. Defensively, it's not a bad idea to have a wind Temtem around, and are only presented with a challenge when up against electric types. Because of the aptitude to take on toxic Temtem, wind types should always be top of mind in those types of situations. When it comes to offensive capabilities, look no further than Digital Temtem. Remember that fight with Max? Yeah, you do. Digital Temtem are effective at dealing with the 3 most aggressive types in the game, and once you work in the fact that they're ineffective against literally nothing, you can see why the digital type deserves the #1 spot. Defensively, digital types aren't great and will often fall victim to the faster, more effective techniques of both water and electric types, but digital's resistance to toxic types makes for some interesting aggressive play. Being aggressive and swapping Digital Temtem in is probably the best situation, since leaving them on the battlefield exposes them quite a bit. Much like electric and mental, the melee type is definitely suited for an offensive style. While the type isn't overpowering, it doesn't have a hard time dealing with anything below its tier. Defensively, it's not bad either, only taking increased damage from digital and mental, 2 types more suited than melee for offensive play. For that very reason, melee types just become a less important pick, since those top tiers offensively check off the same boxes. They're not a bad type to have around by any stretch, but they bring less to the table than a digital or mental Temtem. Another relatively balanced type, Crystal, is effective at dealing with the quick, aggressive types such as electric and mental, while being resistant to electric, mental, and the most defensive type in the game, toxic. On the other side of the coin, Crystal Temtem are weak to fire, earth, and melee, all types that fill specialized gaps on teams, which makes Crystal a relatively safe bet since the offensive potential outweighs the defensive pitfalls. The final type we have to talk about is Toxic, clearly the most superior defensive type in the game. Toxic techniques are effective against water and nature, 2 types players will utilize early on in their adventures due to their abundance in the earlier zones. In terms of effectiveness, they're the hard counters to both types, as they're also resistant to water and nature techniques. Offensively, Toxic Temtem are relatively ineffective, struggling with earth, digital, crystal, and other toxic types, but their ability to take a hit is unparalleled, only falling victim to effective win techniques. For the most part, you won't see toxic types played aggressively, but who knows, that could always change in the future. To understand how Temtem types work both offensively and defensively, we have to break down this chart even further. Defensive types can be categorized as walls or tanks, used for soaking up damage and stalling battles, while offensive types can be categorized as direct counters or glass cannons. Balanced types can fit in anywhere on your team and can help fill the gaps, evening out a team, making it more flexible and unpredictable in a battle. Of course, we can't forget about dual types. Temtems assign 2 simultaneous attributes. In this regard, defensive types make for the best combinations since it allows their weaknesses to melt away, while offensive types compound in the opposite direction, making them more vulnerable when assigned a second type. It's important to note that any of this, at any time, could change over the course of early access. This is the time where the developers are looking at these interactions closely, monitoring if there are any types that are over or underperforming in any given situation. Of course, if news does change, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. And if you like this survival guide, we'll have plenty more to look forward to in the future. So don't forget to hit that bell and join Legion Gaming on Discord. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legion Gaming, thanks for watching and play on.